let's address first things first. What has been suspended on the Patriot Act?
There are three provisions. One of them is the provision that says that the government can collect records that are relevant to an investigation. The problem here is that the government has used that provision to collect all the phone records from all Americans. And the court has said that this is illegal because how could they be relevant if you're not just getting some of them? If you're getting all of them, how could you say that every record in America is relevant to an investigation? So the court rebuked them, said it's illegal. I don't trust this president to be looking at all the phone records of every American. They hadn't been very trustworthy with the IRS or with religious groups or Tea Party groups. I don't really want this president having all of our phone records. But the good news is that in this battle, the one thing that will come out of this week is the government will no longer be collecting in bulk your phone records. Now, there is a question whether or not the replacement will actually work, because I think it's still going to allow the phone companies to have mass collection of and sorting through all the American phone records. So I'm still concerned about it, but I think it will be a step forward.
Okay, I know you mean this as well. I'm concerned with any president having this capability. I don't want anyone having this capability. When it comes to a private business, the phone company, storing all of the records, et cetera, as long as they can only use it or give it to the government with a specific warrant, do you have a problem with that?
No, and in fact, that's the whole argument. I want to look at more records of terrorists. I just don't want to look at records of all Americans for whom no suspicion has been presented. For example, the Boston bomber. If you had come to me a year before the bombing and said, well, and let's say I'm a judge, and you asked me, well, the Russians have tipped us off, and we have some evidence that he's going to fly. He flew back to Chechnya. Will you let us tap his phone? And I would say absolutely, without a heartbeat. And they say, well, he called 100 people, and 5 of them live in Chechnya. Can we trace their phone calls too? Absolutely. All I am asking for is not to collect everybody's records indiscriminately. I want more time spent. In fact, I told them last night, I would take the billions we're spending collecting all Americans' records, and I would hire 1,000 new FBI agents to specifically go after the jihadists. The FBI said this week they don't have enough manpower. Let's hire them more, but let's quit indiscriminately looking at Americans' records.
Creating jobs already. Look at that.
So why are people like John McCain so dead set against this? I mean, he is, he's doing exactly what they did to Ted Cruz, with the government shutdown, except you are responsible for this one, where Cruz wasn't responsible for that.
It's an argument for term limits. Some people get there and they stay too long. I think people become out of touch with America. I tell people, get outside the Beltway more, go visit America. And what I've found, I've been traveling America, and I've been out there at town halls, 50, 100, 200 people, and they're coming out in large numbers saying they don't want President Obama collecting their phone records. They don't trust him. And the people up here defending President Obama's collection, which has now been determined illegal by the courts, I don't know. I think if they went home, they might hear a different story.
Okay, so now you've said this twice, and it concerns me because now you've used this and you've heard this from constituents. They don't want Obama doing it. Have we learned enough to where we don't want the Bushes doing it, or we don't want President Rand Paul doing it? Have we learned enough?
I hope so. And that's sort of the problem, is that when you have a Republican in power, Republican Congresses have given more power to Republicans. When you have Democrats in power, Democrats give more power. And over the past 100 years, probably the number one problem we have in our country is we used to have co-equal branches, but now the presidency has become so large, the bureaucracy so large, that the presidency is probably 100 times more powerful than Congress now, and often the lowliest bureaucrat in the administration has more power than your congressman.